All right, guys and girls, welcome back. We're just going to go over a couple of terms. People wanted me to start defining basic things to look at, and outstanding shares was brought up, so I thought that was a good starting point. Basically, outstanding shares is the total amount of shares that the company has essentially created. They are allowed to make a certain amount of shares and put them on the market, and the outstanding is a total amount that's currently held by shareholders. So these shareholders, they include the company, institutional investors, and then people, like you and me that just buy the shares on the open market. The company, when they held those shares, their shares are called restricted shares. So they're not actively being traded. They're in the company's treasury, and we can't touch them. But the company, by having those shares, is keeping ownership of the company, depending on how much they have, and it shows a certain amount of faith and strength in the company, depending on how much they have of their own stock. Obviously, if a company is buying back or owns a lot of their own stock, they believe in the company. Um, Institutional investors, now those are going to be people like banks, insurance companies, pensions, hedge funds, REITs, investment advisors, mutual funds, and things like that. So, big groups, big bodies that group money together and purchase into securities. Um, and then the rest would be, the float. And what the float is the amount of shares that are actively being traded on the open market. Now, institutional investors can buy shares from the float, but then they're most likely going to hold on to them for a while, before they dump them. They're going to look for a return on their investment. Um, but the float is going to be what is actively being traded for you and me, that like when we go to buy shares, what we can grab from. And let's just take actually a quick look. I pulled up a snapshot here. E-Trade defaults to Microsoft, so that's just what we're going to look at. But in the company snapshot, you can actually see shares outstanding. It's one of the main fundamental things that's going to be listed. And as you can see, Microsoft, they have 7.7 billion shares outstanding. That's a lot of shares. But Microsoft is also a huge company. I mean, look at their market cap. They are 575 billion in their market cap. That is, that's massive. That's a huge company. So they can handle having that many shares. I do not know what their authorized shares is. Um, I'd have to look it up, but I don't want to accidentally go down a rabbit hole here and waste too much time. But anyway, yeah, you can see outstanding shares there immediately, big bold. It's important to look at. And we'll go over market cap and some stuff later for sure. I mean, that'd be great. And I mean, this E-Trade's awesome sometimes. I promise I'm not a shill for E-Trade. Sorry about that. But I just like having the alerts right here in their snapshot. That's pretty handy. And then also, if you pull up their SEC filings for any company, it's going to be pretty much immediately there. They have to say how many shares they have. So if we go in here to Activision Blizzard's, it's just right here. I mean, this is just title page. All quarterlies are the same structure for everybody. They're gonna look like this, have their logo, stuff like that. But outstanding shares will be right here at the bottom. And so if you look at, they have 754 million outstanding shares as opposed to Microsoft, who had 7.7 billion shares, which is a lot, right? But their stock is about the same price. I think I looked up Activision the other day, and if I'm not mistaken, it was like 64, $65. I mean, we can look at that really quick. Let's see. So yeah, so they're at 64, Ask is like 65, right? But their shares are incredibly lower than Microsoft. So you can find a lot about the company, with that, their share structure and how much their market cap is. You can really tell a lot by their stock price versus that. But you will see companies in the sub pennies and things like that with billions and billions of shares, but their price will be so low because the company is nothing. They have, what is their capital? What are they earning? There's a reason they're trading that low. You can't create all those shares with nothing to back it. So authorized shares, like I mentioned, that's the total amount they're allowed to create of outstanding shares. Um, let's see, another, they can alter their share structure with splits. We'll just go over that a little bit right now. A reverse split is when they will change the share structure by making less shares available. So let's say they do a ratio of like 20 to 1. 20 shares will then become 1 share, but the share price will increase. So this is, if they want to get their share price up, and also it will give them the ability to create more shares later because they have, in effect, less shares now by doing a reverse split. And you can also do just a normal split, which doubles the amount of shares, but the stock price gets cut in half. So you'll see that with companies like their price gets, like over $1,000, stuff like that. They might do a split, so their shares are only $500, and a lot more people can buy into it. And so their hope is that, we're doing so well, we can handle having those shares at a less price and a lot more of them because people are going to buy them up and it's going to go right back up. Um, and I already went over float, like I said, so that's the active amount, being traded, not held by institutions and the company. So that's what you and I can buy. So it's good to look at the float sometimes of companies because you can see how quickly the price might be able to move. Because if there's a lot in the float, it's going to take a lot more buying pressure to move the price up. And it may not take so much selling pressure to get the price down, but generally it should. But you don't know what it depends on the faith in the company and what the price is doing at the time. But anyway, that's just a short video, some shares terms. If you guys had any questions more about this, I'll answer some of the comments. I may be fuzzy on some of it. Just let me know if I made a mistake or anything like that, and I'll gladly correct it. But I believe that's pretty much right. So anyway, have a good day, guys, and thanks again for watching, and look forward to doing more of these for you.